Hello everyone and welcome to the Barrens Chat Podcast. I'm Saad and with me today is my co-host Guk. This is a podcast about World of Warcraft by two guys who play it. So Guk, how did this week go for you guys in your Mythic progression runs?
This week was good. We actually did a good job taking out Sivara and Radiance of Ajara, which is essentially the reskin version of the Eye of Ashara dungeon boss from Legion. That was pretty easy. Then, for some reason, we struggled on Behemoth, and it's just kind of crazy. There's one new mechanic, this beam, and the beam wasn't really that big of a deal, but we had a lot of problem with the spread. So to deal with the beam, you have to kind of soak and absorb the damage, but there's a 5-yard spread mechanic that you have to observe the whole time, or you're going to be throwing off way too much damage, and we had a lot of damage go out from that.
Interesting. So is that spread thing an issue when you guys are stacking up for the beam?
Yeah, so people will like preemptively stack, and they're doing it too early, so that's causing everyone to take more damage than they need to. And then after the beam, we're not separating fast enough, so there's just a lot of unnecessary damage going out, which is kind of crazy. This is a mechanic that, you know, we should have totally have worked out in Heroic, but, you know, alas, here we are.
Yeah, well, at least you're close. I mean, the third boss should go down, I would assume, this week, right?
Oh, definitely, yeah. We'll get Behemoth down this week. Ashvane is the first, like, serious fight. As far as the mythic fights go, her at the 4th spot is, like, the beginning of the raid. The first 3 are so easy that it's going to be farm content for everyone who tries their hand at mythic.
Yeah, free loot for everybody.
Gotta have that free loot. Dude, I've got some highlights of this week outside of WoW the game. One of the biggest things that I noticed this week, I was looking at Warcraft logs to just try and theorycraft how to get my Havoc Demon Hunter ready to go for DPS. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. But on Warcraft logs, at the top, you can check a box that's either for retail BFA, or you can check a box that's for Classic. And I checked out the Classic section. They already have plans to support Molten Core and beyond for Warcraft logs. So there will be Classic logs. There will be the theory crafting to the extent that we have in retail. I'm confident that if Warcraft logs, one of the biggest websites for third-party Warcraft stuff, if they are going to be moving on to Classic, I at least am going to expect a lot of other services to also do that. And I am expecting crazy good add-ons. It's going to really revolutionize vanilla, and I'm excited. I'm just really excited about it. This is the first big thing, third party, that I've seen that I've been kind of like, well, you know, if Classic rating is going to be as big a deal for me, these few things have to be a part of it. And parsing and looking through logs, that's a big one. And the fact that that's already there has me really excited.
Yeah, I noticed that too, like a week ago, and that is awesome. I think you're going to see pretty much any add-on that you see in retail right now, you should see in Classic. Maybe not at launch, but within due time, which is good for the health of the game, for sure.
Yeah, I would expect the standard Pawn Simcraft with this kind of log support. You should expect a full suite of LVUI. You should expect a full suite of dungeon add-ons, either DBM, bigwigs, whatever. Weak auras is going to be a huge thing. There is going to be a mountain of all of the necessities. They're all going to be there for the rating add-ons and the third-party services that you would want for Classic.
Yeah, which is good, especially because like it seemed like the hype kind of died down right towards the end of the beta, but at the same time, not that many people are involved in the beta, and, you know, not too many people want to get deep involved with something that's just going to delete their character at the end of it. So
yeah, the real hardcore people, they went in and they have, you know, the level 40 meta worked out, where it's like, well, if everyone's level 40, these are the items that are best in slot. These are the classes that are going to be better than other classes because of where they are at 40. So that, like, the time spent investigating and learning that meta, I'm kind of glad that I wasn't a part of that, because that's so useless. Like, that's immediately useless to everyone who dings 41. Like, it's just immediately obsolete.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely something to be said, like twinking at like 39 and 20, you know, those twink brackets for the battlegrounds when they're available, but Yeah, you're right. I mean, nobody really wants to stop at 40 and just see how awesome they are. No, they want to get to the end game as fast as they can.
Exactly. So the twink community, yeah, they'll look into that stuff, and they have a wealth of information and video now, high quality video from the streamers and the dueling tournaments and all that stuff that went on during Classic. But for the rest of us, for those of us who are excited about hitting level 60 and raiding or doing max level PvP, whatever it is, it's not going to be nearly as important, that whatever level 40 meta that was developed. So that was my big thing. My big thing this week was getting excited about Classic raiding because of all of that, and then also kind of approaching it from both a tank or DPS perspective. That's been the new thing this week.
Yeah. So I did my first heroic Ishara pulls last night, and I thought it was going to be way worse than it was. The fight was iffy, but we did get a 20% pull. So I would honestly expect to have ahead of the curve this week, which will be awesome.
So you guys got a 20% pull. You only raid for 2 hours. How deep into the raid did you get that 20%?
It was probably like the last 5 or so pulls. There was like we probably could have had a better pull at the end of the night too, but there was a little confusion with the ads that spawn with, where you gotta have the mermaid, Naga throw the spear through the shield, and we were supposed to ignore the second ad for a while, but I think that memo got missed. I know I was DPSing the wrong thing, so I know a couple other people were with me, but I would expect her to go down this week, which is great for me, great for my characters, great for me trying to pug anything. It's always nice to be able to link that achievement. So if she doesn't go down this week, next week.
That's the crazy thing about that achievement, is that how it has so much power the first few weeks, but then once people start to like understand that anyone can get the achievement if they pay for it, you can kind of piece together like, well, you know, your gear's too low. Looking at your armory, like, why do you only have 1 out of 8 Eternal Palace and you happen to also have ahead of the curve? Like, that really stands out. So that it's pretty weird to see all of the emphasis on getting the achievement, because it's super important early, and I also fall victim to that. I really want to get that ahead of the curve achievement just to have it, just to get my alts into groups more easily.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, that's all right. Like, my eye level's getting up. I went on Warcraft logs this week too, and I checked out how I was doing. My parses are improving, but I still have a lot of work to do. I think it's more or less familiarity with the fights now and more maximizing my movement and my DPS throughput. So still a long way to go, but it's cool to get back into it. I ran some keys this week. A couple buddies that just leveled alliance characters with me, so I've been leveling an alt. I've been healing keys on that have actually been going really well, which is good because typically I'm terrible at that. And got through. We did a 7 chest in time with our tank and one of our DPS below 400 item level and 2 pugs. So I'd say that, you know, that's not bad. It's pretty good numbers for very undergeared people going through keys. So looking forward to see what I can do next week with those guys.
Nice, dude. I agree. I'm excited to get back into it. I have another tune that I've just kind of, you know, I'm trying to get the rust off of, kick the dust off of this one. I'm getting back into DPS. Like you, Sod, I mean, you're healing keys, you're trying to do something else. You're normally a DPS. I'm almost always tanking stuff. So for me, being able to take a little break and do DPS has been kind of fun. I don't like how I have to constantly redo questing. I think they need to find a better way to implement alt-friendly mechanics that let you do a catch-up beyond just the gear catch-up of benthic gear. They definitely do gear catch-up really well, but I want to have the ability to just kind of get started. I've spent a lot of time unlocking Mechagon, unlocking Najatar. I've had to, you know, go through and just grind up AP so that I can get to level 50 on my neck, and then I'm still working on getting 55 on this tune so that I can have a major and a minor. I just don't feel like it's very alt-friendly yet, they're part way there. I mean, the benthic gear is nuts. I can't believe that the gloves, if you can get a socketed Poen's gloves, they're gonna outweigh on my monk. They outweigh a 445 item, and at the time I had 425 unsocketed Poen's gloves. Now that I have a socket on it, it's like it doesn't even come close on the sim, and the sim doesn't take into account the effect. So it's like the gear is clearly there, and they definitely know how to let you get caught up with gear. I mean, Warfronts, that's like free gear. Benthic, that's free gear. But it's just like there's something about having to go through and unlock Mechagon and Nazjatar a second time that just makes me fucking turned off from the game.
Yeah, or the war campaign too. I mean, don't forget about that. And I'm with you on that. The AP grind, the Essence grind, the Nazjatar, and the Mechagon is terrible for alts, and I'd like to see something done about that eventually. I understand there's supposed to be like a power curve with your alts, but at the same time, back in the days when gear was the main power progression, all you had to do was get a gear and you were good, right? I mean, you don't play your alt as much as your main, so it's unlikely that you'll be full best in slot before that. It's just, I'd like something to be done so that my alt, who also isn't level 50 or 55 yet on the neck, and I've been grinding AP on, is, it's kind of demoralizing trying to maintain more than one character. And, I beat this to death, but hopefully sometime in the future, Blizzard will realize this for the people that like to play more than one character at a high level.
Yeah, and honestly, playing more than one character at a high level is a very pervasive thing at the high level of Mythic rating, because who knows with, patches that come in that change or hotfix or nerf, certain playstyles or certain classes in general, you have to be ready to swap over to the flavor of the month if you need to perform at the best. I mean, most people in a mid-tier guild, they'll shit on you and be like, haha, you just play flavor of the month, that's why your meters are good. But at the end of the day, if you're trying to push content, you want to be pushing that content with classes that do it well. I don't think there's anything wrong with switching to flavor of the month, but here's what I think of. So to make WoW more alt-friendly, the developers could just be like, all right, well, you hit that level on your neck, all of your tunes on this account, or rather on this server that are max level, share that neck level. They can't gain AP. The AP that you gain on those characters, it just like goes towards cosmetic rewards or whatever it is for that character, so that you can't abuse the system of like grinding out AP that's shared across characters. But you have a main, whichever tune on that server has the most AP, that's your main, and the rest of them have that neck level. And you can accumulate AP, but it won't really change your neck level until you surpass the AP on your main. And then at that point, if it's kind of like the system that we have now. If all of your tunes are the same neck level and you grind AP equally on them, they're all going to level up at the same rate. Why not just fucking have you level one of them up and they all level up together? I think the answer is pretty clear and pretty simple. It's because that takes down on game time played, and the developers just want to increase your game time played. Yeah, you have to go unlock Naz again. You have to go unlock Mechagon again. You have to do all these things again because it keeps you in the game, and that's the metric that they love to just beat off to, and it's stupid. It's not a good system. It's something that doesn't need to be in the game, but is, again, kind of part of this Activision bullshit about keeping players in the game as opposed to keeping players engaged and having fun.
Yeah, and I don't know how undergeared your alt is, but have you tried doing Nazjatar on an alt that just freshly dinged 120, and you're just getting shredded if you pull a second Naga mob? It's not pleasant, and you're right, it is a little ridiculous, I mean, they get subscriptions out of this. Even if you use gold, they actually make more money on your sub because it costs $20 or $25 for that token. So, they're definitely making their money, and it's just upsetting to see these systems that, are not very user friendly. I know in Legion, at least in the first patch, they had the bind on account item that you could buy for your alts with order resources that would give you the artifact knowledge that was close to capped. So it would, in a way, lessen the burden. And I know they do artifact knowledge every week now, or they decrease the value you need to level up your neck, but it's still not as pleasant. I mean, I guess I could do the war campaign, but I've already played through that more than enough times, and I don't really want to see the story. I wish I could just hit, like, yeah, I've seen this before, and let me skip it like you do with the opening scenarios of expansions. But, yeah, having said that, that's the way it is now, so if I want to maintain a second character, I just gotta bite the bullet and play the systems that they have in place. We'll see.
Even that Legion system that you brought up where you could buy stuff for your alt and send it over, didn't that come out in like a 7.2.5? Wasn't that like a pretty late patch thing? Was that even like after Argus?
Well, I remember the first one from Emerald Nightmare time frame, and it kind of lessened the burden, but I think there was a catch-up mechanic around that time. I'm not sure what it was, because, you know, when Argus was out, I wasn't really raiding that much. I was just trying to make gold in prep for Battle for Azeroth. So, but, yeah, I mean, it seems like they always kind of catch themselves. I will say this patch has been a lot more fun than it was prior, so I think they've done a lot of good work for BFA. But I haven't grinded essences on my alt. I've just been kind of playing, and I'm using whatever I have on them.
Yeah, same here. I have to go out of my way to now locate and track down the essences that I need, and because of the way that the system works, I'm only going to get the ones that are listed on Warcraft logs as the 2 or maybe 3 best for my spec. Like I'm not going to mess around like I did on my main and, you know, try different ones and experiment and see which ones are fun. Like, no, I'm just going to go right down to Warcraft logs. What's the best one? I'm going with that. Which isn't as fun. I mean, like, sure, I'll be a better performer, but is that as fun? You know, probably not.
Yeah, and, you know, it's going to be really bad when my main hits the level 65 neck and my alt is sitting there at like level 55 and I have 10 levels to go to be relevant. That's not going to be a pleasant feeling trying to play a different character and you're just kind of stuck playing one. I mean, God forbid you have to change mains. I mean, you're screwed almost. You're playing at a handicap.
Yeah, and honestly, it sucks because you as a player and as a guild member, you're bringing so much more to the table when you're like, hey guys, I can just swap over to this tune, this spec, at a moment's notice, right? If any single mechanic is better for this tune, we need another immunity, whatever it is, you're so much better for your guild, but the developers don't reward you for it at all. You have to spend just as much time. You have to deal with twice as much of the RNG bullshit. It's just not really... having an alt that you want to keep at a high level is not something that they support. That's for sure.
Yeah, versatility is so underrated in raid environments, and it's upsetting that they don't really want that in the game right now.
Any closing thoughts for you?
Yeah, so I've been like seeing the speculation, this is something I want to bring up, about the potential for no longer having Horde and Alliance and having like just one faction, right? And Horde players can play with Alliance players, you know, and so on. And how would that impact the game, PvP? I've actually seen a lot more people against this, and they like having two sides. But in a way, I was kind of for it, and I was thinking, like, if they do get rid of that, right? You know, what if they implemented like a world system, like, you know, a game like Ark would have, right? Where there's like other tribes, which would be guilds, and you could be allied with guilds or you could hate guilds, and that could be your world PvP, right? And then so you don't have to have cross realm zones, and then you don't have to have, you know, all this cross realm stuff, and you actually have a viable community inside a server with, you know, community interactions. I think that's huge for WoW, and I think that would be, you know, maybe a cool concept if they went that direction with something. I think, you know, it both negative and positive.
So the biggest issue with that I see, what's going to happen to world PvP? I would imagine that would turn into like there are going to be certain zones where you enter that zone and then boom, no matter what, it's world PvP, would that be a free-for-all? Like any other player character you can fight with, regardless of your faction and their faction? Would it return to Horde versus Alliance in that zone? You know, maybe they could experiment where certain zones are free-for-alls, certain zones are, you know, tribal lines. That wouldn't be that bad. I mean, if you want to go experience that kind of gameplay, you would just go to those zones, and if you don't, you can be out of those zones interacting with a bigger community, like you said, Sod, that is composed of kind of some cross-faction elements.
Yeah, I mean, I would think more of like guild versus guild, right? Like maybe one guild doesn't like another guild. Maybe they have the same raid times. There's been poaching going on, and say you're out doing some emissaries with a couple guildies, and then you see this other guild and they're red, so you fight them, and then they get their guild mates, you guys get your guild mates. There's a whole battle between two guilds. I mean, I think that would be pretty cool. Even if you're on the losing side, that could probably be a lot of fun. So just some kind of interaction like that, I think would be all right. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it would definitely be weird with world PvP. So we'll see. I don't know if they'd implement that. I think that's a huge risk for them to take. So who knows where they'll go with it.
Yeah, unfortunately, there have been a lot of leaks about 8.3, and none of them really seem super credible. But I mean, we know N'Zoth is going to be involved. We should see something with Sylvanas and Nathanos, but I don't know what they're going to do with the Horde. I just don't know what they're going to do with the Horde in 8.3. Like, Sylvanas as the villain has been like, or she's been rather forced into kind of a villain role, and that to me is very obviously reminiscent of Siege of Orgrimmar type stuff. But N'Zoth has been built up as the end boss of this expansion. The battle for Azeroth is kind of this metaphorical battle for the planet, not for control of the planet, but for the planet's survival. So I really don't know what they're gonna do. They've kind of left it up in the air. Is there going to be a fractured Horde? Like right now, there's clearly a fracture in the Horde where we have a civil dispute between the Sylvanas loyalists and the kind of the Thrall Sourfang loyalists. Is that going to split the Horde in two while the Alliance stays one faction, and then there's going to be like a third faction that's like a sub-Horde faction? Like who knows what they're going to do? But they definitely have left the door open for something new in the faction department. Thank you for listening to the Barrens Chat Podcast. We appreciate you taking the time to listen to us talk about World of Warcraft. If you want to get in touch with us, send questions or comments to baronschatpod@gmail.com, or you can hit us up on Twitter @baronschatpod.